The moment the alien commander slammed her palm on the table, the entire room reacted like prey. Guards tightened their grips. Advisors leaned back. Screens dimmed as safety systems prepared for violence. And then the human negotiator did the one thing no one expected. He stepped forward like the anger was not a weapon, but a warning. The conference station floated between two-star territories like a coin balanced on its edge. It was called Accord 9, built to look neutral, which usually meant it looked cold. Transparent walls showed a giant orange planet below, slow and silent, like it had seen too much to care. Jonah Rook stood at the center of the human delegation. He was not a soldier. He was not famous. He was simply the man Earth sent when it wanted peace without surrender. His suit was plain, his hands empty, and his expression calm in a way that made some people uncomfortable. At his side, Dr. Myra-san tapped notes into a slim pad. She was the translator specialist, the kind of person who could notice a threat hidden inside a polite phrase. Behind them sat Rafik Chen, a young engineer who had been invited just in case, which was code for something will probably go wrong. Across the table, the alien delegation arrived in perfect formation. Their species called themselves the Sorin, tall and sharp-featured, with eyes like polished glass and voices that carried strange layered tones. Their leader, Commander Varel Tharuan, walked like she owned the air. Her uniform was dark, simple, and decorated with tiny metal threads that reflected light in patterns Jonah couldn't decode. She didn't smile. Her two advisors flanked her, one older, calm, and dangerous-looking, named Elder Strategist Corin, and one younger, tense, named Lysa Ven, whose eyes flicked around as if she expected betrayal to crawl out of the walls. The meeting began with formal greetings and careful phrases. The station's translator system converted words into meaning, but meaning was never the real problem. The real problem was that humans had arrived late to the galaxy. The Sorin had controlled the nearby trade corridor for centuries. They had built fuel depots, mining routes, and relay gates. Then humans appeared, fast, hungry, creative, offering trade with one hand and building new tech with the other. Now Earth wanted to place a quantum relay network through Sorin space, claiming it would benefit everyone: faster communication, safer shipping, fewer pirate raids. Commander Varel listened for a long time without interrupting. Her posture was perfect. Her face was still. And that stillness was not calm. It was restraint. Jonah opened a hologram and displayed the network design, nodes like glowing beads stretching across the star map. "This will reduce signal delay for both sides," Jonah said. "It can save lives, protect commerce, and stabilize the corridor." Varel's voice came through the translator smooth and cold. "It can also watch every ship that passes, every message that travels." Myra's fingers paused above her pad. Rafik swallowed. Jonah kept his tone steady. "The relays don't record private content. They handle traffic flow." Varel leaned forward slightly. "So you say." The older advisor, Corin, spoke quietly. "Humans claim transparency. Humans also invented 1,000 ways to hide knives in friendly hands." The younger advisor, Lysa, added quickly, "Your species writes laws after you break them. Then you call it progress." Myra's eyebrows rose. Jonah felt the weight of it, old fear, old bias, and something deeper, a belief that humans were clever in the way a wildfire is clever. Jonah didn't argue yet. He asked, "What would make you feel safe?" Varel's glassy eyes narrowed. "Safety is not a feeling. It is proof." Earth's proposal offered shared management of the relays, equal access, rotating oversight, joint security. Jonah presented it carefully, like a gift that might explode. Varel's jaw tightened. "Rotating oversight," she repeated slowly. "You mean taking turns watching each other?" "It's governance," Jonah said. "Shared control." Varel's voice sharpened. "Control. Yes. That is the honest word." The room grew 10 degrees colder, though the thermostat didn't change. It was the kind of silence that came before something broke. Myra tried to soften the moment. "Commander, we respect your sovereignty. These nodes are designed to be neutral infrastructure." Varel's hand shot out and struck the table hard enough to make the hologram flicker. Neutral, she snapped. Then she stood so fast her chair skidded backward. Her voice rose, layered tones stacking on top of each other like pressure waves. The translator struggled, forcing meaning into human ears. You arrive with sweet words, she said, and build your machines across our lanes. You call it partnership while placing eyes in our skies. You say it benefits us while granting you reach. You ask for trust while assembling a cage made of light. Corin's hand lifted slightly, a silent warning. Lysa looked like she might bolt. Jonah felt his own people stiffen. Guards on both sides readied their stance. A human security officer's thumb hovered near a stun switch. Varel's chest rose and fell sharply. Her hands clenched. Her eyes burned. And then she screamed. It wasn't speech. It was raw sound, rage turned into physics. The air seemed to vibrate. A few humans flinched. One of the station's sensors beeped as if it had been struck. The translator cut out entirely, unable to translate a storm. Everyone stepped back. Everyone except Jonah. He moved forward 3 calm steps, stopping just outside Varel's reach. When her scream ended, silence rushed in like a tide. Varel stood there trembling, her own fury shocking even her advisors. Jonah didn't raise his voice. He didn't threaten. He didn't smile. He simply asked, "Are you hurt?" Myra's mouth opened in disbelief. Rafik looked like he forgot how to breathe. Varel stared at Jonah as if he had spoken nonsense. She had just detonated the meeting. She had delivered the kind of display that ended treaties and started wars. And the human asked if she was hurt. "What?" Varel said, her voice hoarse. Jonah didn't back away. "Your anger sounded like pain. I want to understand it." Varel's throat tightened. She wanted to shout again. It would have been easier. Rage was armor. Rage was power. Rage was how she stayed in control when humans tried to shape the future of her people. But Jonah's calm wasn't weakness. It was something else. It was the terrifying kind of strength that didn't need to prove itself. Varel's voice shook slightly as she forced herself to speak. "You want to install relays in my territory?" "Yes," Jonah said. "But not at the cost of your trust. You already assumed you could." Her eyes narrowed. "That is the wound." Jonah nodded slowly, like he was taking her words seriously, not as an obstacle but as truth. "Then we started wrong. Tell me where it hurts most." Corin leaned forward, surprised. Lysa stared at Jonah like he was insane. Varel's hands slowly unclenched. "You treat our space like open air," she said, voice low now. "Like history doesn't matter. Like the ones who built the lanes have no right to refuse the ones who arrived late." Myra's eyes softened. Rafik looked down, ashamed without fully knowing why. Jonah didn't defend Earth. He didn't justify. He didn't push. He only said, "That's fair. And I'm listening." Varel hesitated. No one ever said that to her. Not in battle. Not in councils. Not in negotiations. People feared her anger, so they avoided it. Jonah walked into it. The station's artificial lights dimmed slightly as if evening had arrived. Outside the window, the orange planet turned slowly, silent witness to something rare. A moment where rage did not become war. A moment where a human refused to be ruled by fear. And somewhere in Varel's chest, something cracked, not weakness, but possibility. The next day, the Sorin returned with a new document. It looked clean and formal. It also felt like a knife wrapped in cloth. Commander Varel was calmer, but her eyes stayed sharp. She had not forgiven Earth. She had only agreed to continue. Jonah read the Sorin counterproposal in silence. Myra watched his face carefully. Rafik leaned forward, squinting at numbers. The Sorin offered relays, yes, but only if humans surrendered 2 things. Full access to human encryption methods. Permanent Sorin inspection rights over human relay hardware. It was written like cooperation. It was shaped like control. Rafik whispered, "That's not a deal. That's a leash." Jonah nodded once. He expected this. Fear turns into demands. Trust is expensive, and neither side wanted to pay first. Varel studied Jonah. You asked to understand our pain. Now understand our caution. Jonah didn't argue. I do. But this proposal would make humans feel trapped. And trapped people don't stay peaceful. Corin's voice was quiet. Then what do you offer that is proof, not hope? Jonah looked at Myra, then at Rafik. Then he did something no diplomat was trained to do. He told the truth in plain words. Humans are dangerous, Jonah said. Not because we are stronger. Because we improvise. The Sorin advisors tensed. Jonah continued. If you try to control us with fear, we will invent ways around it. If we try to control you with technology, you will resist until conflict becomes inevitable. So the only path is transparency that neither side can fake. Varel's brow lowered. Speak clearly. Jonah leaned forward. We propose the relay system becomes a third entity, a neutral network that neither Earth nor the Sorin can secretly own. Corin's eyes narrowed. A myth. A structure, Jonah corrected. Built like this, open hardware designs, public audit logs, randomized node oversight, and shared keys split across both species. Rafik activated a schematic. We can design the relays so no single authority can rewrite logs or spy alone. It would require both sides to cooperate. If either side tries to cheat, the system locks down and broadcasts the attempt. Lysa's voice cracked with doubt. You would build a system that tattles on its creators. Rafik gave a small, honest shrug. Yes. That's how you stop creators from becoming tyrants. Varel stared at the hologram. It was clever. It was human. And it was risky. Myra added, we'll also allow Sorin engineers to co-build the first node with us. Not inspect afterward. Build it together. So you know what it truly is. The room fell quiet. Varel's expression shifted. Not soft. Not warm. But thoughtful. This wasn't diplomacy. This was engineering trust into reality. Corin said slowly, if such a system exists, it would change more than trade. Jonah nodded. It would change the corridor. Pirates. Smugglers. Even wars. Because truth would travel faster than lies. Varel's fingers tapped the table once, twice. A habit of calculation. Then she said, there is another reason we fear this. Jonah waited. Our rivals, Varel said. The Carvex syndics. They do not want peace. They profit from instability. If they cannot control the lanes, they will burn them. Myra's face tightened. Are you saying sabotage? Corin nodded. The moment they hear humans and Sorin cooperate, they will strike. Not later. Immediately. Rafik swallowed. Then we should delay announcements. Varel shook her head. Secrecy will not save you. They have spies everywhere. Jonah exhaled slowly. Then we build anyway. And we prepare. The next hours were intense. Technical teams met. Security plans formed. Even the station AI was pulled into simulation cycles. But something else also happened. Varel watched Jonah as he worked, calm, precise, not trying to dominate the room. He listened more than he spoke. When the Sorin grew tense, he didn't mock them. He asked what they saw that he didn't. That behavior was unfamiliar to Varel. In her world, power meant pushing until the other side broke. Jonah's power was different. It made space for others to stand without fear. At the end of the day, Varel spoke privately to Corin. This human, she said quietly, is either sincere or the most dangerous liar alive. Corin answered, both can be true. But I have watched him. He does not flinch from anger. He does not feed off it either. Varel looked out at the stars. If he's sincere, then we may be witnessing something rare. Peace. Varel's eyes narrowed again. A new kind of strength. And somewhere far away, in the dark lanes of the corridor, a message was already traveling. A whisper through criminal networks. Humans and Sorin were building something together. The syndics heard that whisper, and they smiled. The sabotage didn't come as lasers or fleets. It came as silence. On the third day, Accord 9's external sensors blinked once, and then went blind. Communication relays across the corridor began dropping out one by one, like candles snuffed by invisible fingers. Ships reported phantom signals. Navigation beacons drifted off frequency. The station's AI voice grew tense as it processed impossible error rates. Myra stood frozen. This isn't random. Rafiq's hands shook as he checked diagnostic feeds. They're hitting the quantum link layers. That's insanely advanced. Jonah security chief rushed in. We have incoming objects. No transponder. Fast. Varel's eyes hardened. Carvex. The room became chaos, but Jonah's voice cut through it like steel wrapped in calm. Everyone breathe, Jonah said. We solve one problem at a time. The first problem, the station was blind. If attackers came close, there would be no warning. The second problem, the corridor itself was failing. If ships lost navigation, thousands would die in vacuum with no rescue possible. Varel looked at Jonah. Your relays are not built yet. Your plan cannot save us. Jonah nodded once. Then we make a smaller plan. Now. Rafiq swallowed hard. We don't have the hardware. Jonah turned to him. We don't need the full system. We need a beacon. Something that can't be faked. Myra's eyes widened. A human trick. Jonah looked at Varel. Do the Sorin have anything that can't be copied? Varel hesitated. Then she said, our resonance codes. Our ships can sing into the vacuum in ways others can't replicate perfectly. Rafiq snapped his fingers. We combine it. Human math with Sorin resonance. A hybrid signature. Pirates can't imitate both. Jonah nodded. Build it. Varel's jaw tightened. In hours. In minutes, Jonah corrected. That's the thing about humans. When the universe gives them impossible odds, some of them treat impossible like a suggestion. Rafiq grabbed tools. Myra pulled encryption libraries. Sorin technicians arrived, skeptical but desperate. Varel watched it happen, humans and Sorin engineers shoulder to shoulder, arguing and building, sharing code like medicine. It was messy. It was loud. It was alive. Outside, unknown objects continued closing. Corran entered the room, calm as stone. Commander, the syndics will attempt boarding. Their favorite tactic is panic. Varel's eyes flashed. Then they will be disappointed. Jonah didn't look away from the work. If they board, we don't fight like a war. We fight like a puzzle. Varel almost laughed. You are insane. Jonah replied softly, no. I'm human. The station lights flickered. Gravity shifted slightly. Somewhere in the hull, a distant impact rang out, like someone knocking on a door with a hammer. Boarders. Security teams moved. Varel's guards took positions. Jonah stayed with the builders. Myra whispered, You're not going to the safe room. Jonah shook his head. This is the safe room if we finish. Another impact. Closer. Rafiq's voice rose. I need the resonance pattern frequency. A Sorin engineer snapped back. It's not a pattern. It's a living sequence. Then teach me, Rafiq said. Fast. Varel watched him, this young human, sweating, terrified, still asking to learn instead of demanding. She felt something old shift inside her. Not trust yet, but respect. The beacon prototype came together as a small sphere, no bigger than a fist, built from station spare parts and Sorin biometal thread. Rafiq held it like it might bite him. Myra said, if this works, it will broadcast a hybrid truth signal into the corridor. Jonah nodded. Then we send it. Varel frowned. How? We are under attack. Jonah gestured at the window. You have shuttles. Varel's eyes narrowed. You want me to launch a shuttle into a dark corridor during sabotage? Jonah's tone stayed calm. Yes. Because the enemy expects us to hide. Corran stepped forward. Commander, this is reckless. Varel looked at Jonah. If this fails, thousands die. Jonah met her gaze. If we do nothing, thousands die anyway. Varel's hands clenched. Then she said, I will go. Everyone froze. Corran stared. Commander. Varel lifted a hand. I will go because my people must see I do not hide behind humans. And because if a human's crazy plan saves my corridor, I will witness it with my own eyes. Jonah didn't argue. He only nodded once, like accepting a truth. Borders hit the outer locks. Alarms screamed. Varel grabbed the beacon sphere. Jonah walked with her toward the shuttle bay. As they moved through corridors, station lights strobing, Varel said quietly, Why do you keep doing this? Jonah glanced at her. Doing what? Refusing fear, she said. Walking forward. Jonah thought for half a second. Because fear makes people smaller. And I'm tired of small decisions. The shuttle bay doors hissed open. The sleek Sorin shuttle waited, engines ready, pilots pale with tension. Varel turned to Jonah. If I launch, they will try to destroy me. Jonah's voice was steady. Then we make sure they can't. He leaned toward Myra's comm unit. Rafik, can you piggyback the beacon signal on the shuttle's engine flare? Rafik answered, breathless, yes. But only once. It will burn out the core. Jonah nodded. Do it. The shuttle engines began to whine. Varel stepped inside. Then she paused and looked back at Jonah, like she was seeing him for the first time. Human, she said, if this works, what do you want? Jonah didn't smile. A corridor where no child dies in the dark because adults couldn't share light. Varel swallowed hard. Then she launched into the black. The shuttle became a streak of silver in the void. Behind it, hidden objects surged forward, Carvex attacker craft, fast and quiet, like sharks in deep water. Accord 9 remained blind, but not helpless. Myra and Rafik stayed in the control hub, hands flying. Jonah stood behind them, calm and focused. Corran watched with the cold patience of a veteran strategist. Then the beacon activated. A pulse rolled out into space, not a normal signal, but a layered truth, human encryption locked around Sorin resonance, impossible to fake without both minds. The corridor responded like a sleeping giant waking up. Ships that had lost navigation suddenly saw a new anchor point. Emergency systems snapped online. Drift became direction. And the syndics realized their silence weapon had failed. They shifted tactics. They went loud. A Carvex ship lit up and fired at Varel's shuttle. The shuttle dodged, but the second shot clipped the wing. The craft spun, stabilizers screaming. Varel gritted her teeth. The cockpit shook. A warning alarm screeched in her language. She whispered, so this is how it ends. But then she heard a new voice in her comm, Rafik's, strained and urgent. Commander, your shuttle's engine flare can be used as a mirror. If you angle it, we can bounce the beacon further. Like a lighthouse. Varel hissed, I'm being hunted. Rafik answered, yes, and you're also the brightest thing in the corridor right now. Please don't die. We really need you alive. It was such a human thing to say, honest, awkward, desperate. Varel almost laughed through pain. She forced the shuttle into a sharp arc, using the damaged wing like a lever. The engine flare bent, and the beacon pulse shot outward again, even stronger. This time, it hit the pirates' own systems. Because Jonah's puzzle wasn't only a beacon. It was bait. Myra's eyes widened as data flooded in. Their ships are sinking to the beacon without realizing it. Jonah nodded. Because they're greedy. They want to hijack it. So they're connecting. Corran's voice was low. And once connected. Rafik swallowed. Once connected, We can identify every pirate node pretending to be a civilian relay. Myra finished. We map their entire shadow network. The syndics didn't just attack. They exposed themselves. Jonah leaned into the comm. Commander Varel. Hold for 30 more seconds. Varel's voice crackled. If I live, I will complain about this. Jonah replied calmly, fair. On Accord 9, security teams fought off boarders in brutal close quarters. But the real battle was happening in data space. Myra launched the audit protocol. Rafik triggered the lock broadcast system. The moment the syndics tried to rewrite the beacon's data, the system screamed the truth across the corridor. Every ship, every station, every neutral observer. A public broadcast, Carvex craft signatures, hidden IDs, smuggler routes, black market docking codes. The syndics' greatest weapon, secrecy, turned into their death sentence. Pirate ships that had been hiding in plain sight were suddenly visible to everyone. Within minutes, independent patrol fleets that hated the syndics but never had proof now had everything. Some of them didn't even wait for orders. They attacked. In the shuttle, Varel watched the dark ignite with distant flashes, ships intercepting pirates, cutting them off, forcing them to flee. But the syndics didn't retreat cleanly. One attacker rammed Varel's shuttle. The cockpit went white with impact. Varel's vision blurred. Her hands slipped on the controls. For a moment, she felt the old rage rising, pure and instinctive. Then she remembered Jonah's voice. Anger is information. So she listened to it. Her anger said, live. Finish. Don't become a symbol. Become a survivor. She forced her shaking hands back onto the controls. The shuttle spun, engines coughing. She aimed the damaged craft directly toward the nearest patrol fleet, broadcasting her identity, beacon blazing like a flare in the dark. A patrol ship moved to intercept her, huge, armored, and fast. The syndics tried one final shot. But this time, the patrol ship blocked it. Varel's shuttle slammed into the docking net, caught like a falling star. She gasped, bruised but alive. On Accord 9, Myra's eyes filled with tears. Rafik dropped into a chair, trembling. Jonah closed his eyes for 1 second, then opened them again. Corran stared at Jonah with something like shock. You didn't beat them with weapons. Jonah's voice was quiet. No. We beat them with sunlight. The corridor was alive again. And the galaxy had just watched humans and Sorin do something impossible. They outsmarted darkness together. After the sabotage, nobody pretended this was normal diplomacy anymore. This was survival. This was history. Commander Varel returned to Accord 9 2 days later, walking with a stiff limp and wearing a brace under her uniform. Her eyes were tired, but something inside them had changed. She had seen humans under pressure. Not panicking. Not begging. Building. When she entered the meeting chamber, the room went quiet. Not from fear this time. From respect. Jonah stood, not to perform, but to acknowledge her return. Welcome back. Varel sat slowly. Your engineer owes me a new shuttle wing. Rafik, red-eyed from lack of sleep, muttered, I owe you a whole shuttle. Myra smiled faintly. Corran's expression was thoughtful. Lysa looked like she was still trying to process reality. Varel placed the treaty draft on the table. We will not sign your original proposal. Jonah nodded. Understood. Varel continued, we will not sign our original counterproposal either. Myra's breath caught. Varel's eyes locked on Jonah. We will sign something new. Jonah didn't rush her. What does new mean? Varel tapped the table once. It means we stop pretending neutrality is the same as fairness. She gestured to the star map. The corridor remains Sorin sovereign space. The relays exist within that legal framework. Myra started to speak, but Jonah lifted a hand gently, let Varel finish. Varel's voice stayed firm. But the relay system itself will be governed by the hybrid truth protocols we built. Audit logs public. Oversight randomized. Hardware open design. No one owns it. Everyone is accountable. Jonah nodded slowly. That's stronger than anything we offered. Varel's jaw tightened. Because now I understand something. Humans will always outbuild cages. So the only safe option is to build systems that cannot become cages. Corin leaned back, impressed despite himself. Varel looked at Jonah. You asked me what I wanted. Now I ask you. Why did you do it? Jonah answered honestly. Because the syndics win when good people don't trust each other. And because I'm tired of human history repeating itself in space. Varel's eyes narrowed. And if my people refuse this treaty? Jonah's voice stayed calm. Then we go back to separate empires and suspicious borders. Maybe we avoid war for a decade. Maybe not. But we will have learned nothing. Silence sat heavy. Then Lysa, the young advisor, spoke carefully. Commander, our people will follow your lead. But they will ask what changed you. Varel's gaze softened slightly, almost unwilling. A human walked toward my anger instead of away from it. Rafik coughed. Myra hid a smile. Varel continued, and then that human built a beacon from junk and truth, and turned pirates into evidence. Corin's voice was quiet. A strategy of exposure. Dangerous. Jonah nodded. It's risky. But lies thrive in shadows. So we remove shadows. Varel stared at the treaty again. For a moment, she looked like she might feel the old fury rising, the habit of armor, the reflex of dominance. Then she exhaled. And she signed. Jonah signed next. Myra and Rafik exchanged a look that said, did we just survive the impossible? The station AI chimed softly, announcing official status, accord achieved. Corridor relay, initiative approved. Outside the glass walls, ships began moving again through the corridor, not as predators, not as rivals, but as travelers guided by a network that couldn't be secretly owned. News spread fast. Humans didn't conquer the Sorin. They didn't submit either. They did something stranger and more powerful. They built trust into the infrastructure. In the days after, independent worlds began asking for the same system. Neutral councils demanded truth relays. Even old enemies considered treaties, not because they suddenly loved each other, but because the new network made cheating harder. That was the real HFY moment. Not a battle won. A future changed. Varel met Jonah privately before departing Accord 9. You did not fear me, she said. Jonah shrugged. I respect fear. I just don't worship it. Varel's eyes narrowed, but her voice softened. My people made me a weapon. Jonah replied, weapons can also become guardians. Varel looked away, then back. If humans keep building like this, the galaxy will change. Jonah nodded. That's the point. As Varel's shuttle left the station, Myra leaned toward Jonah. You realize, she said quietly, the galaxy is going to copy this. Jonah watched the stars. Good. Rafik laughed shakily. We just gave the universe an anti-corruption device. Jonah replied, calm as ever, we gave it a reason to cooperate. And far away, in the dark where the syndics used to hide, something new existed, an enemy of secrecy, a weapon against tyranny. A simple signal that told the truth.